Have a day, good morning. Buenas noches, buenas, and welcome to your Guam Legislature. The Committee on Finance and Government Operations is now called to order at 0904. This is April 30, 2025 today. First notice of this public hearing was disseminated to all senators and media outlets on April 23, 2025, with its second notice disseminated on April 28, 2025. The hearing notices were also made available on the Guam Legislature's website, our legislative calendar, and the Government of Guam's public notice portal. The committee will now hear Bill number 44-38 COR, introduced by the Committee on Rules by the request of Magaʹhågan Guåhan, the Governor of Guam, in accordance with the Organic Act of Guam. An act making appropriations for the operations of the executive branch of the Government of Guam for the fiscal year ending September 30, 2026, making other appropriations and establishing miscellaneous and administrative provisions. Today we are hearing, this hearing is relative to the charter schools of Guam. Joining me for this budget hearing is our Chairman of Education, Senator Guåhan, Senator Jesse Lujan, and Senator Sabrina Salas Montanani. Thank you, colleagues, for joining me this morning. Those testifying on Bill 4438 relative to the charter schools of Guam, please take a seat, and you have. You're very efficient, and you're signed up also to testify. Before we begin, I'd like to remind everyone in attendance of the Legislature Guåhan's general rules of conduct. Individuals testifying shall first be recognized by the chairperson before speaking and shall state their full name for the record-keeping purposes. Questions and testimony shall be confined to the substance and nature of the bill and the nature of what is on the agenda. Personal inferences to character or motive of any senator or individual testifying is not permitted. The chairperson of the committee may order removal from the hearing of any member of the Legislature Guåhan or the public audience who fails to observe proper decorum pursuant to the 38th Guam Legislature Standing Rules. Any violation of this general rule of conduct will result in immediate removal from this public hearing room. I don't expect this from such distinguished individuals in our community, such as yourselves, but we have to read this into the record so that people know what's going on here and our rules. At this time, I'd like to ask our Sergeant-at-Arms to please swear you in, if you can all rise. In all budget hearings, we do this because we're discussing numbers and, of course, things that have to be verified. So please understand and be sworn in.
Do you all affirm that any and all information you provide today, whether it be verbally, electronically, and in writing, be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Okay. Mr. Chair, you're under oath. You may proceed.
Thank you, Sarge. With that, we'll now proceed to hear testimony on Bill 4438. So I'd like to ask the panel to, when you speak clearly into the microphone. Identify yourselves for the record as we will be putting the committee report together. And so whenever you're speaking, identify yourself so that when we do our transcription, it's very clear. Thank you. So at this time, I have signed up to give oral testimony Helen Nishain. Is she here? Okay, sorry. I'm just trying to read that. Evangeline Cepeda, Ann Santiago, Jay Sunga, and Amory Arceo. So at this time, as you are basically the overall executive, Ms. Vanjie, I'll go ahead and start with you, and then we can proceed from there.
Thank you, Senator Christopher Dueñas, Chair on Budget and Government Operations. Thank you for having all of us here today. Thank you to our Chair on Education, Vincent Bora. We appreciate you, Senator, freshman. And to our great supporter of the charter school, Mr. Jesse Lujan, Senator. And to the freshman on the far end, Senator Sabrina Salas Montanani. We hope to get your support on this bill. With that said, good morning, Hafaday, buenas. My name is Evangeline Marie Cepeda. I am the chair of the Guam Academy Charter School Council. Today, we come before this legislative body to justify that we will remain, as promised in the 37th Guam Legislature, $7,800 per student pupil. As promised, we will keep that. And we are only requesting for FY2026 budget an increase only on the enrollment and the student cap to increase that. The demand is out there. There is a long waiting list in some of the schools. In some of the schools, they can't open because of our student cap and our enrollment, the number of enrollment per charter school. This is very different from the capacity in each charter school. Okay, so some charter schools like Mount Carmel can go up to the capacity, a large capacity, but they're only asking what is in demand. So with that said, under Public Law 29-140, better known as the Chapter 12 of the Guam Academy Charter Schools Act of 2009, I want to give you a little history for the new senators on board here. First, with this, in August 2010, Guåhan Academy Charter School was the first to be chartered on Guam. That's almost 15 years ago. So just keep in mind, senators, that when we come before this body, that the charter school is very much fairly new. Okay, we have made mistakes, we've had hiccups, but at the end of the day, we found resolutions and moving forward. With that said, the second charter was ILEARN, which was back in November 2014. The third charter was CIFA, Science is Fun and Awesome, which was in January 2018, followed by Career Tech, which was chartered, and then Mount Carmel Charter Academy, which was in 2023. Okay, keep in mind, Career Tech did come up for the charter, but COVID happened. It was put on hold for a year and a half. So with that said, and then on 2024, which was our 6th and 7th, we had Business Technology Academy Charter School, and last but not least, Magaʹhågan Chamorro Academy Charter School. Both were in 2024. We have met the requirement under this law, 7 charter schools. We fulfilled that. With this, I come to you and I plead with this body to please support our increase with our budget. Again, we will remain at $7,800 per student pupil. We will work with what we got or what we receive. This body here, 7 charter school representatives that lead these charter schools to ensure that they run smoothly, that they are very much in compliance with the law as the law requires. And I like to say this firmly, that all these 7 charter schools under Public Law 29-140 all meet these requirements to this day and are current. First, when they applied for the charter and the petition, it met all requirements as required, and the council reviewed it, went through the process, and it was approved and passed. All charter schools are accredited, okay? They are accredited by law, okay? The next is with regards to audit findings. Okay, we've had concerns where they say, well, audit findings. All I can speak on, Mr. Chair, is that audit findings as far as 6 years ago and 5 years ago, we can defend because I was here. I can't speak anything prior to that. I can tell you that with all the audit findings, for example, Guåhan Academy Charter School, which is the longest running charter school, in the last 5 years, they've had 0 audit findings. And so that's something to be regarded as amazing, okay? With that, we meet all local laws with regards to education, such as public health. The 2 new schools, they didn't open on time. They were almost 2 months behind. And that was because, again, it had to meet and pass public health requirements. And at the time, public health was more concerned and focused more on DOE and getting that moved. And we're not blaming anybody. We're just saying that these are the things that we had to take care of, and the schools, they took care of it, and they're in full compliance as far as public health is required and are current as of today. All of the 7 charter schools are nonprofit under revenue and tax. If you go into the charter school offices, I've required them to post up the public health. I've requested them to post all this up so it could be visible for all to see. With that said, and then as law requires, all of them provide the council at the end of the fiscal year within 30 days to provide the council with an annual report to include student achievement, student progress, all these other factors to see the progress of each charter school. Please keep in mind, some people may say with this, senators, that, oh, how do you measure morale? Very unique. You can't measure it. There's no measurement. The measurement is, as the wonderful, beautiful lady to my right here stated, speaking it day in, day out, all day, that's the progress. That's the magic, okay? And what may work for Harao may not work for business and technology, because their mission is very different. The same, but very different. And then we have career tech. And we have all these CIFA. All of them are unique and very organic in the way they do education. I need to say that, okay? And last but not least, I need to say before I move on is that people forget when they say, oh, you know, you put these kids at charter school. Do they not forget that these students are students of Guam? We serve the same population. The only difference is that the parents and the students are given the opportunity to place their students in a very kind of sort of private school setting, except you don't pay for it. And so they say, well, charter schools, you know, are free. Look across America. Charter school is part of the state pays for the charter, and the charter performs. We do have our hiccups. We do have our problems. We are working it out, and the things we're working out, we're bringing before this body so we can amend or change these laws to improve it. But a day in, day out, I'm going to sit here and defend these 7 charter schools and say they work hard. They multitask. And I'm not here, I've said this before since I've been chair. We're not fighting against DOE. I was elected 3 terms to the Department of Education in the Lago District. I'm very in support of the children of Guam. I am saying to you today that with less money, we can show results. It's a smaller program, it works better. Everyone in this seat before me, they wear 12, 15, 20 hats. And the great thing about the charter schools is not every charter school, not all charter schools have no certified teachers. Many of them are certified. But what works for the charter is that they're flexible to get teachers that are certified that want to get paid less. Unfortunately, it's the way it works, but some people want less stress. Some people want to go home at the end of the day with less stress, peace of mind. So what works for these charters, my job is not to go in there and impose anything on the charters. My job is to ensure that the things that I've mentioned under the law, that I as one council member and my other council members review and ensure that they comply with the law. I'm not here to babysit. I'm here to ensure that they follow through, that they do as they're expected, and that the main mission is student first mission, and follow the mission. Whatever mission they may have in their school, what works for their school, works for a lot of the students. And if you go to our charter schools and you visit them, you will hear this live testimony from their very mouth, from the student, from the parents. I have calls, and I've mentioned this to the senators before. I receive many calls from parents asking me, Ms. Cepeda, why is it that I'm on the waiting list, I've been on the waiting list for 6 months. I call, I follow up, I'm still number 2. And the school knows who I am because I call. What's going on, what's the status? But this is what's going on, the demand is greater. And now we come to the second batch. We have the military families wanting to put their child in the charter schools. This is another factor that you people have to consider, is that this is happening. It's happening here and now. This is something that must be needed. And the only reason why we're increasing with our FY2026 budget is because of enrollment, not because of student per pupil. We will work with the 7,800 per student pupil. Like I've always said to these people, be innovative, work within your means, make it work. 7,800 we're keeping. And I want Senator Dueñas to please understand this, and I implored this to him passionately, that our 7-8 will remain. But our increase is on the enrollment, okay? With that said, I come to you today, and I say to you that we have 7 of our representatives from our 7 charter schools. If you may have any questions in regards to what they do or what is required, they may answer. But I come to you today in support for our FY2026 budget for all charters for $28,970,435. Okay, and that's almost $2 million more from last year. But keep in mind, last year the 2 new charters came in midway, and now it's a full fiscal year. And then the enrollment. We have 4 charters right now that have pleaded with me to fight for the enrollment. So this is where I'm at today. I want to fight for the enrollment, to increase the enrollment for these 4 charters out of 7. And I hope to get your support in this, senators. And I thank the 38th Guam Legislature for hearing me out. Thank you and God bless.
Ms. Vanji. So next signed up as we go forward, Helen Nishihira from Island.
Hafaday, Senators, Honorable Senators. I'm Helen Nishihira from Island Academy Charter School. Thank you for giving us your time this morning. There's so much I could share about Island, as I'm incredibly proud of what our team has accomplished over the past 11 years. What Island has achieved is truly groundbreaking, and it's been my hope that it would continue to pave the way for meaningful change in education on our island. But none of that actually matters if I can't answer a more pressing concern. Is Island fiscally sound? Island has just completed our FY24 audit. We have had a clean audit every single year. Our submissions are always timely, with the exception for our most recent one. This is due to ARP funds triggering us into a single audit when we exceeded the $750,000 threshold. This caused a month's delay as we waited for a required statement from GDOE. This was significant because our ability to complete our audit hinged on receiving that statement, as GDOE, being the ARP recipient, had reporting authority, not ILEARN. Acquiring a letter from GDOE took some time because we weren't sure who to turn to for the letter. But fortunately, we were able to receive that and complete the audit. While ILEARN was not responsible for reporting directly to USDOE, we took seriously what this meant for our friends at federal programs. We were quick to respond. We attended all necessary meetings, provided timely information to support federal programs compliance. We didn't spend all of the ARP funds made available to us because we had maximized the use of ESF1 and ESF2 prior, and those were, as you know, were very hefty sums to begin with. But I believe we were the biggest non-GDOE schools in terms of spending. We invested in technology for classrooms, including electronic whiteboards, teacher laptops, student iPads. Every student, all 780 in total, have a student iPad, thanks to ARP. Administrative computers, robotic kits, both Lego and VEX, and VR goggles. We also purchased agricultural materials, art, and office supplies, along MDM systems to manage and secure student devices, protecting our students from inappropriate online content, and streamlining the services of almost 1,000 student tablets. Beyond that, we shared our strategies with other charter schools and with GDOE federal programs. At the time, only Guåhan and CIFA were eligible for these funds. As these were GDOE grants, we underwent on-site inventory checks twice a year. Our inventory is extensive, requiring 2 GDOE employees over 2 days to complete. That's how much materials we were able to get with these funds. Each visit, we would earn 100% rating. Not only were we thorough in accounting for our assets, GDOE also witnessed these assets in action during their visits. We took it even further by demonstrating how federal-funded professional developments were being used by ILEARN. We created our first set of webinars to be accessed on our website, created by 2 teachers, showcasing these federally funded tools directly enhanced instruction, ensuring these investments yielded educational benefits. The team at GDOE Federal Programs have been a great support for this. I want to thank our tireless colleagues at GDOE Federal Programs. Their support in helping us procure software, supplemental curriculum, and professional development was invaluable. When I voiced my concern that most consolidated grant fundings tend to favor secondary students and programs, they listened, and together we sought out ways to change this. This year's federal programs team has been open-minded and innovative, investing time to expand iLearn's career-focused needs and ability to take our robotics programming to a higher level. To them, I say a heartfelt thank you. Now back to fiscal soundness. BJ Cruz may never admit to saying this about iLearn, but I have witnesses who can attest to his statement. In our third-party, it was through our third-party auditing team. At our most recent audit entry meeting, BJ Cruz had told the third-party auditor, "You won't have a problem with iLearn. In fact, the government of Guam, if the government of Guam ran like iLearn, I would have no problems." So, I do recall a time when BJ Cruz did not think this way. I remember our very first entry meeting with him years ago, where we debated whether charter school contracts should require the AG's review and the governor's signature. He argued it was necessary for accountability, but I believe it was too restrictive and undermined the very purpose of charter schools. I explained that if those signatures were required, the contracts would essentially be government-owned, though we still be responsible for paying them, therefore control the possibility of default while the government would be left holding the bag. That didn't seem fiscally sound to me, and we eventually agreed. While I didn't convince him that day to support charter schools as a working concept, we did leave that meeting agreeing to two things. One, he claimed that he strongly felt that my husband was crazy, which I honestly agreed. And two, charter schools must be responsible and held accountable for every penny given, and therefore every contract signed. iLearn has honored this principle since. We've always operated knowing that there isn't a safety net for us, understanding that we are entrusted with taxpayer dollars, and our results must reflect that responsibility. There is something I do want to refute, however, something BJ Cruz alluded to during discussions of Bill 6838. He suggested iLearn's success was due to being part of another school. This is simply untrue. None of our audits indicate this, and therefore I'm not understanding this conclusion. The statement gives the illusion that iLearn has had advantages over other charters. We pay rent, utilities, internet, copier machine rentals, security, food services, everything, just like everyone else. In 2017-18, when the government agencies faced an 8% budget cut across the board, we ran out of money by the first week of August that fiscal year. We were short about $250,000. That might not sound like a lot to a government agency, but to iLearn it was nearly 2 months' rent and services at the beginning of a school year. We had nothing to fall back into, no savings. We had just started, and like every business, needed time to secure our footing that was just kicked out from under us. We negotiated a payment plan with our vendor to slowly pay down the lease and service agreement at 7% interest. We were able to do this with no supplemental funding. The legislature, however, did allow for the following fiscal budget to be used to pay down prior year obligation, and that did help. But this was not supplemental funding, it was budget we abide by. When schools closed for COVID-19, we continued paying our vendors. If we ceased to pay, the contracts would not be in place for when the students came back. On a side note, we quickly transitioned to distance learning, leveraged our existing technology infrastructure, and maintained continuity in instruction. There was no discounts or favors. We paid every single time. So I want to dispel the notion that iLearn had it easy, and this is why we were able to succeed. It was hard, and if it weren't for the encouragement of the council and other CEOs sitting at this table, and truly the peace of God, I don't know if anyone could really survive this industry. Through faith and prayer and careful decision-making, iLearn is what it is now. Dr. Juan Flores asked me last year, how? I said, only God. God has been our source and our guide, and I'm not going to hide this fact. We have lived within our means. We could use more funding? Absolutely. I sometimes wish allotment were merit-based. The better the school, the bigger the budget. But I'll leave you with this. Charter schools are no longer an experiment. We had notable successes and some epic fails, not just in charter, but in education in Guam as a whole. This needs fixing. But we cannot continue to replicate fails and think our results will be different. That's why we have charter, to do something different. We're supposed to be different. We cannot be the same as our predecessors. Don't get me wrong, I would love more money. I could use more money. I always need more. But honestly, it might not be the solution for everything. And I don't think anyone at this table would like me to say that. But if we don't fix our problems, money's not going to fix it. Charter school remain a valuable part of our island's education system. And iLearn stands as proof that with integrity, accountability, and heart, great things are possible. Thank you.
Ms. Nishihira. At this time, I'd like to recognize a couple of our colleagues that has joined us. Vice Speaker Tony Ada, who also is the Vice Chair of this committee, Office of Finance and Budget, and also Senator Tello Taitagui. Thank you, Senators, for joining us. Now I'd like to move on to the testimony of Jay Sunga. Please proceed.
Good morning, Honorable Senators. My name is Dr. Anthony J. Sunga. I'm from CIFA Learning Academy. I'm the CEO. I'm here. Helen spoke a lot about the challenges and the things that that charter schools go through, and I agree with those things. I'm not here to speak to. I'd like first to really speak to the successes of the charter schools in general and in CIFA, and I'll embody this with a letter from one of our students. I have here in front of me 15 letters from students from 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And it says here, he titled it, My Experience at CIFA. Before I joined CIFA, I was feeling down and depressed since I no longer felt confident and wanted to isolate myself. I wanted to have a fresh start when I would go to middle school after moving to Guam, until I enrolled to CIFA. Everyone was kind and supportive whenever I met the staff members, the students, helping me boost my confidence. The teachers are supportive and helping me during our engaging lessons, STEAM projects. My classmates are friendly and relatable by sharing interests and having a safe and supportive place to learn and study. Being at CIFA has helped me be a better person since it boosted my self-esteem, raised my grades, and helped me have friends. I want to thank CIFA because of what they have done for me. I have, again, 15 letters like this, all expressing the same sentiments of what we do for our children. When we opened CIFA Learning Academy, our goal was really to provide the alternative learning space for our children, for our people of Guam. And I believe the success that CIFA and all the other charter schools have done in their special way of education is accomplishing that. We have just completed our accreditation review last week, and in regards to their recommendation, they are not official yet. We are waiting, but the recommendation is to move forward with a 6-year accreditation. In their exit rubrics, we have several highly effective, and somewhat effective check marks with no ineffective check marks in what we do for our school. Our school works. Our parents are coming in. We do have a waiting list, and so the request for increasing our cap is there, and I support that, and I hope the honorable senators will support that as well. We based our school in science is fun and awesome, and we do it not just through academics, because we feel that the health of the mind, the health of the heart is very important for our students moving forward. We have over 200 student athletes, and it's not just being an athlete, but it's also academics. 200 student athletes with a GPA of 3.2. Our athlete won top honors in running. We placed in the bowling, and so our athletic programs actually helped us in regards to academics. We won the science fair, first place, math counts, we were involved. So there is really successes that we can speak of in terms of not just CIFA Learning Academy, but you'll hear all of these stories with the charter schools itself. Yes, we have issues. Yes, we have problems, but every issue that we come across, it was always made a priority to address those issues. And are we still going to stumble? Yes, we are. But we have a great leader in terms of Ms. Vanji in giving us the advice and allowing us to do what we can. And again, the support of all the other charter schools. We speak to each other, we have meetings and asking, we ask the questions of how can we make things better. And so I cannot say that we don't have problems, but we are addressing them. There's not an issue we aren't addressing. And so I truly believe in charter schools. I truly believe in CIFA Learning Academy. I don't believe that we are in competition with public schools. I myself actually go and train Department of Education teachers in terms of science and training them, and we feel that there's that camaraderie and how we need to learn together. Again, charter schools are very specific to how we implement our lessons, how we implement education, and every student has different ways of learning. One could be truly academic, one could be holistic in sense of sports or just STEAM projects, project-based. And so CIFA does it in a sense where we do what we call project-based, STEAM-based learning, hands-on learning, to not just capture the academic proficiency of our students, but also to really enlighten, as you saw in the message, to really just build up our students more in terms of the mind and the heart so they could be better citizens, because that really is our goal for our students, is to be better citizens for Guam, and the academics will follow. I would like to say thank you again, and I hope that our honorable senators will support moving forward with our 750 cap, and again remaining at 7,800. So thank you so much.
Sidus Masi, Mr. Sunga, Pago Barabeu Rekinisa si Señora Anne Marie Arceo, Ginini Hurao, no?
Magaʹhågan.
Magaʹhågan Hurao, dispensado. Fino tomorrow sa idomo no charter school. Para tomorrow.
Lo debita fino tomorrow cada dia.
Nay. Lo hog para hogo na sa tiutungo ko man tomorrow todo siya, with the exception of si Señor Will Castro. Consigue pago.
Sige na debita togo yastisa. Un dia sina tafan fino tomorrow. Cada dia tori tiempo hunggan. Buenas sidus maasi guau si Anna Marie Arceo, guau i CEOs and Principat i maagang i Magaʹhågan Hurao, Samoro Academy Charter School Pago. Gov na umidi para be gagi gwini matatatsungi menan mizu Pago na dia sa 20 años di huna falago hurao. Put esti mismo na minalago na parata na lala ifino tomorrow lo ti enoha. I parata na met good. Ifa magonta za matungo hadzisia. Hadzisia importanti. Pago na ora put esti 20 años ni hamiha umispia afana salapi para ben na lala esti. Finana na biay en siliet oportunidad para ben charter, Chabetin sa saday palabra para charter school. Lo especial na eskwela, no? Sangi kino i edukasyon, i GDOE. Lo sinatun hongi lo toru i shantu na famagon ni mangagi gihurao pago. Manugogandu zaman malalago, zaman fifinot sa moro ha. Man mumumo gifinot sa moro. Man mangekeya gifinot sa moro. Then ti fahongi mangi kada dia kumakatizo karauli I preba nasinya tazogui. Kada dia. Let me know if you guys need interpreters. There's some sitting at the back. Okay. Sorry. Para tatalik ka, okay? Lo, Bayadura hamzu dididi, no? Bayadura hamzu dididi. One day, my wish is to create, I see leaders in these kids that we're creating who are going to be our governors, senators just like you, leaders in our community who are strong in their identity. I'm sure you can relate that you have this hole in you, not, being cheated or raised in not to anybody's fault except our history and our colonization. And so our responsibility right now, or the question is, are we going to be responsible tomorrow to restore and give this back to our children today? We have a chance. We have an opportunity to do this now, and we're proving it over and over again. 20 years under our belt of just continuing to do this with little funding from the government just on our own, and now even more we can maximize it with the help of the government. That is the true goal and the uniqueness of Magaʹhågan is to create powerful leaders that can lead our community. We have to fast forward even 10 years, 20 years from now, when these children become adults in our community who know and can self-determine what our needs are truly and not be confused about Western thoughts or Western, not that it's bad, we've used Western, but to use these opportunities to our advantage as an indigenous people. That's what we're creating at Magaʹhågan in this uniqueness. I want to just share that, we started the school year with a 70-30 model, and I'm not sure if you know the details of how we run the school, but we teach math, language arts, science, and social studies, all in Chamorro. Language arts is just in Chamorro. Imagine, in Chamorro. And we have to find those words every day, creating those words of, what is hypotheses in Chamorro? It's simple, right? Hafamon humazongnya, right? We make it so difficult. We're trying to look for a word for hypotheses. But really, it's just hafamon humazongnya, right? What could it be, right? And so to show our children that we have these words in our, what is an atom? How do you, in science, what's the word for atom, right? So we're having to we work double time. The teachers are working double time, not just trying to execute the lessons, but to also find these vocabularies and these words that we've never really put into use before. And so that's really what we're about. We started with 70-30 to give that 30% for children who are just second language speakers coming in their first year, to give them the benefit to still be able to pass the academic subjects and teach them language at the same time. We are now, I'm proud to say that, in increasing that in their fluency, even the first year students, we are now at almost 100% of just speaking to them in Chamorro. And it's May, it's gonna be May, the end of the year. So guess what? And I wanted to explain the cohorts and how it works. It's very different. We cannot just keep taking in enrollment without creating the teachers, and we're working with GCC and UOG in their Chamorro Studies certification and Chamorro Studies programs to create these teachers. You can't just, even if Tunose and Tan Maria know how to speak Chamorro, they don't have the skills to bring that to teach, right? Or to translate the information to the kids in a way or approach that they can learn also. Maybe they can storytell, okay? And so we need to build capacity to grow these teachers. And we're working with them. So it's all the way up, right? It starts from pre-K3 all the way up to college, the college level. This whole program that we need to work on to be built. We need to think 20 years, 30 years ahead of time from today. It's not just today that we're existing. We have to build because it's moving faster. Our enrollment and waiting list right now is bursting at the seams for next year. They've seen what we've done this year. And so we don't know we're trying to figure out how to accommodate them. And it breaks my heart to turn them away because I know we've seen the progress this year of what we can create, right? But how it works, and this is very important, is that if a child starts, for example, at pre-K 3 and then moves to pre-K 4 next year, that's 2 years of fluency. We need to create that fluency in order for them to get math, in order for us to teach language arts, math, and science in Chamorro, and for them to easily understand it as they grow through the grades. So every time we take on a new student, it's a challenge, right? Because if it's their first time, they don't understand. So we need to give a little bit of leeway, speaking to them in a bilingual approach in order to catch them up on their fluency. And so we have to be very strategic about how we recruit and how we enter them into those cohorts. Because if there's a cohort that came from pre-K 3 and is in kinder, they had 2 years of experience in the language and are fluent, and now they're ready to go in kinder to be taught in all the subject areas. However, if a child enters, for example, in the 3rd grade or the 4th grade with 0 fluency, that's where the challenge lies, right? So we're trying to grow the cohorts from the bottom up so that we create more speakers as they move to learn. I just wanted to share how that works because I know it's not just an everyday normal education or kind of education. And so I wanted to share with you that that's how we're doing it. It works. The kids are fluent, even more than their parents. We have parents come to attend parent classes once a week in order for them to learn and be able to speak at home. I also wanted to touch on our partnership with BTAX and how we're working together. We have a memorandum of understanding on an operational level to support each other and growing the high school to a capacity where in their intake, our kids can go to BTAX and use what we've built them up to be in their language and identity and be able to learn indigenous, be speakers and know who they are, and then learn those things, the skills they need to know in technology to be able to go out to the world and represent us as Chamorros globally. That's so powerful that we continue that pathway for them and strengthen that. I just think it's a very, very unique opportunity for us to build this kind of education that we have ahead of us. And so, pwede sina in support ti. Hafa in Tetsugui, it's a lot of work. It's just, I know it's just never enough money, right? But God provides, and I'm not gonna go without saying that because we've made it through this far, even starting late, even with, the funding, it's never enough, but we're appreciative and we're grateful. Si Diyos maasi, nagwadesi esti masya dididi na azudo lo by who epo kamzu na kumo manyamoruhit, kumo tamoruhit, nesita tagoti esti na momentu sa taza otru po togi parhita. Hita ha ni Chamorro. Taza po alok I Korean pat I Tagalog pat otru po masagan mala za besat ba lengua hin mizu. At suka mangagi guni gitanota. Hita ha para te togui. Taza otru para ta ngoku. Pues nisita ta decidi ha u fafaisin hamdu todo. Gona hulu por favor nita fanyago ti konaiza tafana aduda. Uniku estina oportunidad pago na momento. If we wait another 10 years to move or do anything and just keep not prioritizing this, guess what? We're creating also better citizens just because they know who they are and they know the responsibility and take ownership of our land and our resources. But when they grow up not knowing their identity, it's again a mega problema sa di matungo hazisia. And so they're looking for ways, getting into trouble. Lo angin man met good sa matungo hazisia, sempre mas maliki komunidad talokui. Pues enigi o gagago hamdu I sinapotin mizu na mga mahasu na para SDI I puri fondon salapi budget fondon salapi Guini, mas dongkulu kita esti, mas dongkulu kita. Ze necesita ta para nyayon za ta hasu manu hafana salan para ta talani fa magonta. Manu magahit. Taza watru potso ogi hita ha. The magovzo na toru hamzu sa morgana hulo sa Guåhan responsibilidad ta hungan. Guåhan responsibilidad ta. Mungehet man malafa sa tadik torusti lina la itano tadik sinata man malafa hit. Ni hafa mas importanti. Ta togui fandu kosikian man dongklus sana fa maguun sinama arek lai tau ta jan confiança ni matungo hazisia. Siduas masi.
Hagumas, undangkuruna sejus masi para tetumido. Entordido mo no manzudao. Da magufo para hago. Si Senora Narceo. So at this time, I'd like to recognize also the Sean Gumatauto, Senator Gumatauto, for joining us as well. And so I will now recognize the Chairman of Education. I know that we have other schools here that did not sign up to provide verbal testimony, but of course the panel, you are of course free to ask any one of the charter schools, 7 charter schools that are represented here, any questions with regard to their budget. So with that, Mr. Chairman, Senator Guåhan, please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the to Vanjie, Madam Chair, and the rest of your leadership team from the different charter schools for coming down today. I think one of the big things that, or not necessarily in regards to your budget, but as like the new oversight chair on education, one of the things, and to kind of carry on from the testimony from Eilern, in regards to some of the things about assessment. One of the things that I want to, I guess, ask in regards to just all the different the charter schools, and this is not necessarily about whether or not it's not about whether questioning the ability or the capability of the schools, but really I think where we go in regards to data is what the outcomes are of all the different charter schools. Magaʹhågan, eventually I know they're new, BTAC is new, CIFA, just the different things as the charter schools evolve, where we see these students go, right? Are we going to see students from Hurrah, go on to become Chamorro teachers in the public schools or in other cultural programs, seeing some students go from CIFA into some of the science and arts programs at the university, or even just into careers in those specific fields. So my question is, I know I looked at the charter school law and I'm really trying to understand it, and this is obviously a discussion that we can have moving forward, is how not necessarily assessment based on academic achievement, but how do you guys currently assess these types of accomplishments or return on what the charter school is doing across the island, the charter schools?
Thank you, Senator Borja. Okay, for that. For example, let's use a Guåhan Academy Charter School, which is the longest running. They had 3 years ago, they had their first 12th grade graduates. So the council came before them and said, okay, now we need to see the progress made for the students that attended first grade to 12th grade and they graduated. What were the results? Where did they go? What are they doing? And so I can give the floor to a Guåhan Academy Charter School. They have those results.
Senators, my name is Ann Santiago, and I'm both humbly and honored to represent Guåhan Academy Charter School, the first charter school on Guam that only serves from kinder to 12th grade students. We have served about 3,000 students from the time of our operations back in 2013. And 85% 82% to 85% of our student population are Title I students below the low income bracket, which means that, yes, we are blessed to be not paying free rent, but we also provide the same social services and supports GDOE gives to our students, the same taxpayers to our families, because we're the only charter school, or we're the only charter school who's approved for the national breakfast and lunch program administered by USDA. We provide nutritional meals for both breakfast and lunch, 100% free for all our students, 85% of our students. 2 years ago, or last year, we were able to provide the EBT cards, summer EBT cards that only GDOE schools and DODEA schools provide for our students. And that year, the influx of students coming in is really, we had to put them on hold, because knowing that they are qualified to get this summer EBT is what they say we can avail of in registering or enrolled in DOE schools or DODEA, but they cannot avail if the school is not approved under the child nutrition program. Another is our assessment. We're the only charter school who accepts diverse culture. We accept our program, our instructional program, our academic program focuses on accepting all different students of different academic levels. And our goal is to put them in, they come out of our school a better version of themselves, not just academically, but also socially. Our set of seniors, juniors, and seniors for the past 2 years, the first time that we gave or we administered the assessment of word keys, 40% of our juniors and seniors are national career ready. These are assessments. We have to redefine our definition of student achievement. And this is for 50% of our students also who are graduates immediately go to the workforce. 28% only pursue higher education, but we prepare them for both college and career, and also their social services. We also accept students under the IEP. We have about 30 students, or 20%, 8% of our student population. We provide the same services GDOE and the US for our need students.
All right, thank you for that. And I guess my second question relates to staffing and teacher retention. Are there trends in the employee turnover or staffing challenges across the charter schools? Is there any data collected by the council in regards to this?
Yes, we do, Senator. We do have that. Our student retention, like everywhere else, some leave to go to DOE with more pay. But for the most part, from what I'm hearing from the leaders on this table, is that they stay. They're happier where they're at, less pay, but they're less stress. They go home with so much less stress. They like the environment. That's a big plus for them. The retention, I'm not going to deny it. A lot of them do leave. DOE pays more. And a lot of them do come back. So, it's a back and forth. And keep in mind, the bodies that sit before this table, they're very innovative. They try to work around with the needs. Sometimes it's not even about pay. It's about they want to be home by 3 o'clock for their kids. So they're very, very innovative in that way, where they say, okay, then you can teach in the morning, and they work around it, A prime example, Senator Will Castro, he always tells me, he works around the need of the teacher to keep them. And what works for the teachers, he kind of does more other than the money or the pay, he does extra. And he's very innovative that way, and he reminds me of this every time we talk. Because, you know, again, we're going in there with 7-8. We're not going to ask for anything more than that 7-8. So with that said, Senator, they are very innovative in that way with keeping them. For the most part, a lot of them are happy and they stay where they're at. And that's what we're very blessed with. That's very unique with regards now to certain charters like Magaʹhågan, where the teacher's need is very different and very unique in itself. But for the most part, that's where we're at with that.
Thank you. And then my last question is, go ahead. Sorry.
Dispensa do Senador Sidus Masi. Ginin ifinana na question mo. Zao magos zam benedosa do basangan na puri 20 años. It's a summer camp pads and after school program. Para 20 años gihorao. SCI 5 años na intituni Nani Academy. But I'm proud to say that 8 of the 18 staff members that we have on board are those kids that went to Horao since they were 3, 4, 5, and 6. They
Awesome.
are the staff today.
That's good.
Fluent, very, very fluent, no doubt. Steady and stable in who they are, ready to pay it forward. Ready to pay it forward. And then secondly, many of the students that we've graduated through the summer camps and after-school programs are out there in the public working at the museum and leading in these areas of indigenous, the revitalization of our language, culture, history. At UOG, they're all out there working and leading in these areas.
That's good. Thank you.
I just wanted to share at iLearn, our employee retention is, the turnover rate is very low. Most of our employees have, actually on our 10th anniversary, we awarded those who've been with us for the 11 years, and there's about a good handful of them, but they tend to stay. They enjoy the environment, they get the great support, and with student retention, we have great student retention, which is why it's difficult to get into iLearn because nobody's leaving, you can't get in. So we're the ones that have the difficulty because the wait list is long. On our enrollment date, we open on February 3rd. By 5:30, people are waiting in line at the gate for a 7 o'clock open, right? So, and this year we had about 120 parents waiting in line before 7 a.m. to get into iLearn. So that's what I wanted to share.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Good.
Share for Guåhan Academy Charter School, our retention rates. We have been tracking our retention or attrition rates or turnover rates for the past 4 years. And starting school year 21-22, which is after the pandemic, our retention rate is going higher and higher. Turnover rates are going lower from 45% in school year 21-22 down to 26%. I'm very honored to be working and representing our committed and dedicated faculty and staff who are 20% of them are certified, actual certified teachers who's enjoying only 25 to 30% less of their pay of GDOE, but choose to stay at Guåhan Academy Charter School because they found their home and they are able to serve our students. 11% are retired employees, certified retired GDOE employees who has their master's degree and their doctorate's degree, but choose again to stay at Guåhan Academy Charter School because they serve their purpose and not. From these employees who leave, who is just 26% recently, the #1 reason is for career advancement. And we reinvest with our faculty and staff as we send them through training, professional developed training in partnership with GDOE. And I would like to thank GDOE with that because they send our teachers, professional staff as well, accessible for all these development. Second reason, highest rate of the reason why they're leaving out of the 26% is just family circumstances. which is unavoidable. It's something that is out of our control. So that I would like to just share with you of how we track our data.
Thank you. And one last question is regards to federal grants with GDUE. I know that there are different ways for them to be creative in how the charter schools can probably use some of the grant funding, considering they give some of it back. Just kidding. But but yeah, is there because I am in discussion with them. It's just some other ways to be creative in using some of the federal grant that they have available that they've had for a while. So if you can just kind of share some thoughts on how those are going, those discussions are going.
A few months ago, I did ask, we did meet with the schools that were receiving federal dollars. To answer your question, my question was, have you utilized all the money? And their response is absolutely. They didn't make whatever they were awarded or given from the federal side, they utilized to full capacity. And so I hope that answers your question. Keep in mind that the monies that they received from the federal side was not they utilized that and try to not hold the local funds. So they did utilize whatever they have available. They do have some money, but it is confirmed that is being used and is not going to be returned. That is for sure. I reiterated that to them that, I understand federal dollars. When I worked for the government, I handled federal grants. That was my job. Never returned back a penny. And so with that said, the schools that do have it will not be returning it, and they've utilized it to its full capacity. I hope that answers your question, Senator.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I'll continue to, as I continue to have discussions with them. I think we always try to figure out how we can, spread the love in regards to, especially expending the federal funds that they've had for years, and still trying to figure out how to spend it. So we look forward to that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Susan Masi, Chairman, Senator Bora. This time I'd like to recognize the Vice Speaker, also Vice Chair of this committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the charter school members for being here. I'm just sitting here not sure how Mr. Castro, being a former senator, can just sit there and not say anything. It's truly amazing, because usually on the other side of the table, he has a lot of questions, he has a lot of comments. So I'm going to give him this opportunity, to offer up some commentary if he does have any.
Senator Masi, Vice Speaker, por esta oportunidad. Mula no Guåhan. But the truth is, I was actually learning a lot from my colleagues. I was a little, with great trepidation, I was going to speak, because when the good chairperson mentioned my name about flexible hours and getting off, I was really piniloko na punsongan na sen maratitiradzo sen tough gitalawani. But the truth is that I get off early, and that's one of the benefits. Actually, bula punsongan lo maktozu sabi hu sopopoti I testigon igehilo ikumatea gibandaku. So my primary motive for being here, Mr. Chairman and members, distinguished members of the legislature, is to support the testimony as offered up by the council chair. I do appreciate estino oportunidad na ponsangan hafa gwagwahagi skolaku na mas bonito puri studente kulokwi. I do have a lot to share, Vice Speaker, and a couple of things if I could. Please let me know when my time is up, Mr. Vice Speaker. But the truth is, there was a question, hafa taimano pun midi. How would you measure student achievement or success within each of the charters? And as you could see, you only heard from 2 or 3, but you can go down as professional educators and talk about basic metrics, right? You talk about student achievement using a Likert scale, A through F, or 0 to 100%. Some of us like to look at a change in behavior. In my school, we have a very unique population as well. We also welcome a diverse population. We also have well over 10% of our student body made up of persons with learning disabilities or some other special need. But even a student coming to school once or twice a week, when you know that he or she has persistently been absent, in my book, is a form of student achievement. But then you go down the rubric, just like anybody else, like any professional, certified or not, you would look at maybe a change in knowledge, right? I mean, I could list 10 things. One of my students who's autistic has memorized. As a matter of fact, one of our navigators is here. So my friend Jerry Joseph. In his traditional seafaring and navigation class, one of our students is able to recite from memory the star chart. Now, maybe he or she doesn't place well on the core courses like English, math, science, social studies, but he or she is able to recite from memory with little to no error the star chart. I made a list as everyone was speaking about some other ways you can measure student achievement. I'll give you one solid one that does fit right up there in the Western framework of education, right? For the first time, we introduced a Merchant Mariner Credential Program. This is a bona fide adult program that our students took and they passed. What that means is that they take it to the next level and register themselves appropriately, as we will support, they immediately qualify for a $60,000 a year job. This is fact. Now, maybe it's not, spelling bee champion, or maybe they weren't math Olympiad champion, which I'm not knocking. We will enter those competitions as well next year. But these kids took the Merchant Mariner Credential Program, and that's in front of them. You want to talk student retention? Gosh, I would say students leave because they relocate. Maybe one or two didn't feel challenged, but like the other charter schools, many of them want to be there. In our school, and I'm sure for your school as well, for two reasons: for real love and support. As the good chair had mentioned, and as my colleague at Guåhan had also verified from her vantage point, retention is high, both from the students and faculty perspective. We lost one faculty member this year, not because he or she wanted to leave, but because of certain complications. We stay because we love what we do, we love our vocation, and we love our students. Hands down. That's the one thing that we can do within the flexibility, within the nurturing environment that's created for ourselves within our specific learning communities. Maybe I should stop there. Is that 5 minutes, Vice Speaker? Because I could talk to you about what we do at Career Tech that's uniquely different. And maybe I'll mention one or 2 points. And I would like to offer something up because it was mentioned. Federal funded programs was mentioned, and also the successes in the schools, and maybe there's someone alluded to the state education system. Let me talk about a cultural center. We had the privilege to use our monies accordingly and define CIPs, or capital improvement projects, as erecting a cultural center. I couldn't be more honored than to have my teacher, my Chamorro teacher right here. Right? In terms of Chamorro certification, yes, we also have certified teachers in our school too. And I'll tell you, the cultural center is a distinct quality or asset that we have because we have a Guma Sakman. And in that Guma Sakman is our two traditional seafaring vessels with a master navigator who's world recognized, who's the son of the Grand Master, the late Mao Pialug. Right next to it, we have a Guåhan. That's where they cook underground and prepare meals when they take it out. In the next 3 weeks, we're going to groundbreak for the Magaʹhågan, which is an outdoor bakery. All of that would make up our Sagan Kuturan Somorgi Itza Hadzat, not just Hagat, but Hadzat, all of the South. And a lot of that's inspired by the good work here, of who I really believe is a prime mover and a true mother of the movement, okay? That's just one example. Now let's talk about the state education agency. I will never knock compulsory state education and the need for a state system. But I will always contend, now that I've been on this side of the block, because I've also been on the private school side as a director of advancement for probably one of the most prestigious college preparatory institutions in the region. I've seen both sides of the so-called private school management equation. State education system, I really think, and I would like to submit for your consideration, break the mold and the paradigm, challenge the status quo by extrapolating the state education agency from that of the local education agency. There is a functional difference. And as we've come to see, or maybe many haven't because they're not familiar with that system, they are bifurcated in most states. That means that the state education agency is the one who's primarily responsible for administering and ensuring compliance. And you leave it to the LEAs. Now, what's a LEA? That's a local education agency like DOE. But DOE happens to also be the state agency. But you know what? Look here. While we're not centrally controlled by any single unit, we operate as a charter school familia. This could also qualify in my book as a local education agency. On the private school system. And then what about the homeschool systems? So what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that I think if you take away the SEA responsibilities and funding and create an LEA-type structure that we can equitably and fairly compete for those funds, because you're not both the police and the executor. You're not the compliance officer and the person administering. I'll give you an example without pointing names and divisions. We have a student body known as the Deaf and Hard of Hearing Academy. And I called our colleagues, and they are very hardworking people. I could see that most of them are just really bona fide good people of this. Right? But yet the standard response I get in petitioning for service to my students with special needs and learning disabilities, right? Oh, our hands are tied. We don't have the personnel. No one's applying. Por favor. Right? Give me a chance to RFP that out and get a consultant. If you have 5 people in the entire Pacific Rim who have a specialized service, right, who are asking $50 an hour, you pay that $50. It's immaterial, the cost, when the need is invaluable, when the outcome is the true indicator of student achievement, isn't it? Yet, we accept the fact that we're returning money because not my hands, their hands are tied, whoever their hands are. And therein lies another wonderful gift of the charter school system. She's right. When I have a member of my staff that didn't fit, where they are challenged, sa application niya na send marketing or curriculum or administrator, but I'm not doing a great job because I don't know, maybe I'm an ineffective communicator. I don't fire people. We don't fire people. We work with them to move them around because we have that flexibility as administrators, don't we? And so I suggest, again, going back to this body to revisit the discussion. I'll come fully loaded and prepared with a bunch of literature and a whole lot of case studies that can speak to the advantages of extracting the SEA from the LEA. You want to see change? Tsagi un biyahe. And then tell me what you think. Si Sus Masi por esta oportunidad, Pari, Vice Speaker, for giving me the privilege to speak for, I don't know, 12 minutes now. Guåhan and familia ko, hugwaizamzu po todo nubida mizo for the students of Guåhan. Thank you. Biba Guam.
Thank you. I knew it. He couldn't just sit there and keep quiet. And, you know, there is a difference between 5 minutes and a Will Castro 5 minutes. So my other questions that I had was any of the charter schools that hired personnel under the ARP and still carried them on their personnel staffing now moved to general funds? None? Okay. All right. So the other 2 questions I do have, or the other question I have is with, I believe it's more with CIFA and Guåhan. So CIFA, I know there was headline issues about landlord and school, and has those issues been resolved? Are they coming to terms as to what is going on and how it, because I know that affects the children directly, and that we don't want to see any child being picked up in the middle of a school year because landlord and tenant disagreements. So has that been rectified and solved for the long term?
Well, in that regards, Senator, it is being addressed, and so we in all honesty, we were taken to court that has been dismissed, and so moving forward, our legal has really we're looking at to move forward from this, and is it being addressed? Yes, it is, and. Are we afraid that it will affect student academics? No, it won't, because the priority for me is to make sure that next year we will have, we will not stop in terms of what we want to do in terms of our mission for our students. That is our priority. On the other legal end, that's why we have our legal team to do those things in regards to taking care and making sure that we do right for our kids, and we do right for, again, the budget that you guys provide for us. We are definitely transparent in whatever we're using our funding, and so the legal terms or the issues regarding the landlord is being addressed. Yes.
Okay, so we don't need to worry about the remaining of 2025 and into FY2026, that the school would be closed because of landlord-tenant disagreements? Are we rest assured that?
Yes, yes, and in fact, and that's why we actually requested even a higher cap, because of, as you heard our colleagues, we do have wait lists, and people are excited and to come into our school. We are already at full capacity at the campus we're in now, and so thinking of the future and moving forward, we are looking at these other opportunities where we can actually expand in regards to our school population. So I attest to that yes, we will have a school year next year.
So you're telling me then that you're requesting for a student for a cap, for an increase in your cap.
Yes.
But currently you're already at full capacity in your current facility. So
yes.
how are you going to maneuver that if you get an increase in your student population being at full capacity in your current facilities?
So with our current facilities, we are moving forward to increasing the mobile classrooms to accommodate those, and also we're looking at other off-sites to accommodate those. So the great thing about charter schools is we're not tied to the four walls of a classroom, and so we are collaborating with partners in the community to open up spaces so that our students will have mobile places to go to learn. And we feel that the new kind of academic or education is not so much just about memorizing or getting these high scores in math and science, but it really is about being able to understand the dynamics of life and where you have to find a job, where you have to learn. And so our community partners have provided a lot of those opportunities for us to accommodate for that increase. And because we are confident in receiving those extra spaces, that's why we're confident to request for a higher cap.
Okay, I see. Thank you. For Guåhan, I know that currently your current facility, you're in a government facility, correct? And you're not paying any lease or any rental payments. So what do you, I know the other 6 charter schools either pay lease or rent.
Yes. And it's a blessing that we enjoy, and we thank the government for that provision. But it has to be noted that for consecutively 5 years, we have had unexpended balances continuously year after year. This shows that our ability and capability to pay our lease should we have our own. We have actually, if I may quote the office, Mr. Guerrero from the Office of Public, from BBMR, he said that we have been frugal. And that shows because we are not using our appropriation to the fullest. Year after year, just recently, we returned about 800,000. Not technically returned, but we did not use that 800,000, which is an equivalent amount of our lease under the government. So we have the stability and support to pay our debts. We have zero debts, and we get our appropriations.
I see. So do you pay utilities at your school?
Yes, we do.
You pay for the utilities. So when is it that we will see Guåhan now be in the same level playing field as the other 6 charter schools that are paying rent or lease? Or
as of currently, that's our goal, to have our allocation, to have this allocation for acquiring our own facility at least, or a lease from a vendor, but we have allocated that amount. We are working with USDA and several federal or banks to support our loan for supposedly if it's the construction of our new facility.
And when would that be?
We hopefully,
Are we looking at 1 year, 2 years, 3 years?
With
I
the
mean,
support
what are
of
we
the
looking at?
government, most likely 2 years.
And when would you be moving into a new facility?
Hopefully, again, with the support of the government and with the statutes of the law, we are able to move in 2 years.
In 2 years. So you anticipate that a facility will be built within the next 2 years, and you guys will be in that facility in 2 years?
Either it's built or we will lease. But the fact remains that we are capable and we have that funding that supports that we have been frugal and prudent with our expenses. We live within our means. We don't request for anything more because we live within our means.
I see. Okay. I think that perhaps be the only question I have, Mr. Chair. I know that Mount Carmel and BTEX probably didn't have an opportunity to give their opinions, so perhaps if you would like to share that with, you can go ahead and do that, sir.
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Would either of the schools care to share a few remarks before I go to Senator Sabrina Salas Montanani?
Buenas, Guåhan si Joylene Suba. I represent Mount Carmel School, Mount Carmel Academy Charter School. And we're very proud to say that. Mount Carmel just became a charter school officially as of 2023. So we are actually in our first year, our first full year as a charter school. Again, we do take students as far as GIGO. And we have families from GIGO, all the way from GIGO, all the way from Malolo in Guåhan. We are island-wide. So it is very, how would you say this? It's very, God, I'm lost for that word. Anyways, it's just very, we see the interest in our charter school. You were speaking about, or you were asking about the fact of the retention of the teachers. I can tell you, although we just became a charter school, we do have teachers who are 36 years, who are reaching their 36-year mark in Mount Carmel School. So you know that the tradition and the culture and the heritage is very strong down at Mount Carmel School, and we actually do promote that in there. We have a music program, we have a mixed martial arts program, and we have a spoken Chamorro program that we really, really dig deep into and preparing the students to excel in these areas. Currently, you spoke about the how many students have come back to Mount Carmel School. Although it was not a charter school, I am an alumni of Mount Carmel School. We do have several other teachers who are also alumni from Mount Carmel School, but that's prior to being charter. We have a music teacher. We have a mixed martial arts coach who are former students of Mount Carmel as well. We do have Patrick Palomo because we actually love our music program. We have Patrick Palomo in there teaching the students, everyone from pre-K3 all the way up to our middle school. We go from pre-K3 up to 8th grade, and he touches every student. He teaches every student and shares his talent with them as well, and his knowledge. But again, it's a privilege being here, and I truly hope that all of you support our initiative here, and we thank you all for doing so. So thank you.
Jolene. Dylan, would you like to share a few thoughts?
Hafere, si Senyor Dylan Sablanzo sejus masi puristina tansa pabena tungamzu, you know, hulu, pahafa and setsigigi BTEX. Yes, I'm a little nervous to be up here because this is my first time. And I'm the youngest one at this table, too. I think I might be the youngest principal on Guam, actually. So, you know, I know I'm on the naughty list with Auntie Vanjie over here because I don't really respond to her emails. But like she said, we wear many hats at the charter schools. And so I actually missed the part about gathering testimonials from students and parents. I asked the teachers last minute yesterday, if you guys want to say anything, you're welcome to. But I'm happy I didn't, because I would much rather you guys come to our campus unannounced. Just come, I'll give you a visitor's ID badge, and you can walk around as much as you want. And our signs are in Chamorro too. Our visitor ID badge is in Chamorro because we really love our neighbor here, Harao. And please ask our students, ask our teachers what they think of what we are doing about going to internships on Fridays rather than class so that they can learn professional skills in actual professional settings. Ask them what they think about having an international affairs class for social studies rather than your typical US government and Guam history. And ask them about what it's like to have only 3 classes and where you're not really taking tests, you're not taking quizzes. Honestly, we don't even have homework sometimes because you have 2 hours to get your work done in those classes. And please, I can assure you right now that if you come to our school and you ask the students, they get mad at me all the time because we've been going to DOE schools, we've been going to private schools to recruit, and we see that the interest and the intrigue in what we are doing with aviation, with information technology, with all of the other career clusters that we offer, and we're also a college readiness school, they get mad at me because they don't want any more students to come. And we're only at 75. But, you know, it's easy. I can come up here and say, yeah, more students brings more money, but that's not the person I am. With our school, we're trying to solve problems on Guam. And in order to do that, we feel like we need more students to do that. I'm very passionate and I'm very proud of what we've been able to do in the past few months. I don't want to take up too much time, but also just to touch on the success navigation part of our school. We don't have a disciplinary problem at our school, and we have taken over a dozen students who have had previous track records at their last school, and they have turned around a complete 180. They are model students at our school. Please come and meet them and see that what we are doing is working, and we're only in our first year. Now, with things like assessment, employee retention, again, it's our first year, and so we're in the process of tracking all that data, but you will see from the teachers that they are very happy to be working together and to be working at BTEX. And we're also very happy, I'll always say, to share the campus with Magaʹhågan Harao, because they offer our kids a deeper sense of purpose in what we are doing to make sure that we take our kids, root them in their culture, and prepare them for the world. Thank you.
Senor Dylan Saban. Now we'll go to Senator Sabrina Salas-Montanani.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a lot of questions, but I just want to say that what I see before me is just a whole lot of passion, and it's beautiful. Anne-Marie, I've known you for a very long time, and I know this has always been a dream of yours to open this charter school. My daughter was there when you were holding the Harao Academy summer camps at Sinahaña, so I'm just happy to see you having the charter school. But one of the things that I wanted to ask and bring up is the disparity I see in terms of you guys are requesting $7,800 per pupil and maintaining it for FY2026. And so when you look at the Guam Department of Education's budget request, you're seeing, I guess when you do the math, they're looking at a $2,000 increase per student. How do you feel about that disparity, and why aren't you guys requesting an increase?
Thank you, Senator, for that. Okay, I can't speak on behalf of DOE. I can only say for the charters, you know, when we sat with each of the 7 schools, I said to them, I'm good, my word is good. I promised the 37th Guam Legislature with Senator Tello Taitigui, and I said to her back then, we will remain at 7-8. We'll work within our means. And so we come before the 38th, and we're going to stick with that. Now, I said to them, okay, I'm going to fight tooth and nail to do the increase in enrollment, because every one of them pleaded that. Okay, we'll work with the 7-8, but we need the increase in enrollment because they have a waiting list. With that said, Senator, I can't speak on behalf of DOE. I don't know what in detail why the increase with less students. I can just say on behalf of the charter schools, because you know this is not a tug of war. Maybe for you because of the money situation and what's going on with US DOE, with the whole extrapolation of all the federal funds. With that said, I can only speak of the here and now and on defense to the charter that each of these charters have their day in, day out problems, but they work within their means. They wear, sometimes today they wear their hat 20 different titles, and tomorrow it's 2. And they learn to adjust to that, and they're very creative in that way, and they love it. And so they apply this to all the staff. You know, DOE has, you know, I forget, who was it, where they're restricted to what they do with the titles. I forget the word, I apologize, it just went blank. But with the charter schools, we have Ms. Ann Santiago today will be the school aide, be the principal, do the tickets, do whatever's necessary to make the day go smooth at the end of the day, because it's the student and each of their missions. And they're okay with that. Some may say, well, you know, I've heard someone from DOE said to me, you know, Ms. Cepeda, your CFOs make more than the principals. But that's the beauty of working at a charter school. They work with the budget they have. If they want to pay them a lot, but guess what? They do quadruple of what you do. And I'm not taking away from that. But they're restricted in DOE to do. If you don't, guess what? Here comes the, what do you call that? When you do your jobs at DOE. The union. I apologize, the union where they say, oh, civil, you can't do that. This is what they're entitled to do. They're certified teachers, they can only allow to do this. You heard it from this body. There are many certified teachers in their designated schools, and they do other things. And I think a lot of it is that at the end of the day, they love the environment. I mean, that's a plus. I can't answer, I can only speak of the 7 charter schools with regards to that. We will keep it at 7, 8. I'm not here to take away from anybody. I'm not here to do that. Working at DOE and being on the Board of Education, I was there, it's tough. It's the Pacific Ocean and we are little aquariums making it work. And I just want to use that analogy, but they're innovative, they're amazing. These people up here sitting on the table are amazing leaders in their schools. I am tough on them, and Dylan being the youngest, yes. I want this, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need this. And you know, he's learning, he's amazing. He was on the radio about 3 weeks ago, and I was listening, and he did amazing jobs representing his school. And as all the charters, I can only speak again, Senator, to the charters, and I hope that answers your question.
I did want to also just talk about something that one of my colleagues also asked about a little bit earlier, but I wanted to see if you could expand on it a little bit with people sharing their concerns that there's no performance evaluation and no manifested KPIs, key performance indicators, no system in place that really shows student progress as compared to GDOE. So what do you propose we can implement to address those concerns?
Okay, I'm going to say to that, Senator, that is not an accurate statement. That is not at all. 3 years ago, I came before GAC because they're the first graduate. I said, I'm going to prepare you. As part of your fiscal report to me, I'd like you to provide us a counsel in regards to results, where the students have gone, monitor all these factors. And they do have this provided, and we can provide that to you, Senator. And we can provide it to all the senators. And this is why I asked these 3 sites today to sit in this site, because these are the 3 charter schools that were first chartered. So these are the 3 that we're going to get results from in regards to that. And these are fairly new, so we are working with them with regards to requiring this, the law, under the law, to giving us our annual reports to the council. But these 3 schools do have results. So that is an inaccurate statement with regards to saying, and I want to make that very clear for the record, that these 3 schools do have results that can attest to where they've gone, how they've done the student achievement, and all the other factors that is required under the DOE if we're going to compare the 2.
Thank you for clarifying that. Yes?
We actually participated in the district-wide assessment, which is with the Department of Education. The last year was the first one with the Smarter Balance. And that is when you're doing trends, you need 3 markers. So that was the first marker for that trend. But prior to that, we were using ACT Aspire. And in that trend, we not only had the district-wide assessment, but we had 3 other assessments in-house that testify that what the result is for ACT Aspire was in fact supported by what was, and I can proudly say that iLearn did very well in those assessments, and in all of our end of the year report, you will find the results of those. So we are held accountable to all of that.
Thank you. And the reason why I asked that, Ms. Cepeda, is I wanted to make sure that it was clear to the public and anybody that's watching or any other colleagues that had any questions. So for me, the charter schools are hitting the marks for me, making the grade, A for achievement, accountability, accreditation, and in me, you'll also find an A in terms of an advocate. So thank you.
Senator Montanani. Now, Senator Talo-Tainagui, proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning to my colleagues. I apologize for being a little bit late, but I was listening on my way over here. I was not going to miss this one. As you know, I'm one of the biggest fans for charter schools and here to fight for what I think is doing very well, even though some people are saying that charter schools are not showing the test scores that are needed, and I beg to differ. That's why you have long lines, wanting to get into your schools. Parents, they talk amongst each other. Social media tells you how well their children are doing in charter schools. So, I'm one of the biggest fans, but I'm also the one that keeps an eye on charter schools to make sure that everybody crosses their T's and dots their I's, right, Vanjie? So, I'm just going to go over a couple things. First, let's talk about busing. Is any of the charter schools having any issues with busing? Can you go ahead and speak? We'll go ahead with Helen.
Hi, thank you. And I had shared this in our pre-budget hearing, that one of the big things that busing could do for us is that there is a group of people that we would totally love to see in the charter school, and those are the ones who are well below the financial, right, the economic level, because they don't have the transportation except for the school buses that go by. But for charter school, just like private schools, the way the busing system works is their children are in the bus about almost 2 hours just to get to school and then 2 hours to get home. And the way that's done is once the Department of Education children are picked up, another bus comes and picks up every single private school, charter school, and they all get into one bus, head down to Paseo, jump into another bus, get to get to the school of their choice. And that's actually a nice system. It sounds like a mass transit to me, but I had met with, and I could get into trouble for this because he's a beautiful gentleman, but I did meet with DPW bus director. And I said, hey, look, I'm right behind Juan M. Guerrero. Can you just pick up my kids with them and then drop them off? And because of the double sessions and the timing and the lack of busing and the lack of bus drivers, the answer was no. But I was saying, hey, when you get a little bit more funding, you get a little bit more bus drivers, can we revisit this? Because we're right there with Juan M. Guerrero. You pick up the same constituents. Why do my kids have to go all the way down to Paseo? But in spite of that, the parents still choose charter school, even though 700 cars line up to pick up the kids every morning and pick them up after school as well.
Santiago, go ahead, please.
Same with us because we are close to Tizan High School. And as I have said, 85% of our students or our population don't have their own vehicles. And they spend 1.5 hours at Paseo to wait for their second bus, the bus that will bring them to their homes. And we have been struggling, but 400 families choose to bring their students at Guåhan Academy. And we are thankful because that's a service that is provided by DPW, but of course we also have our wish list. We serve the same public students. We are spending the same, we are holding accountable to the tax money that we get from our parents, and we should return that to our parents as well.
Thank you, Ms. Santiago. It looks like, Vanjie, we need to start working on that together.
I have, Senator. I have looked into this because I brought this to the attention when we at Mount Carmel. I had a mother called me from Magaʹhågan and said to me, I want to keep my 3 children going to Mount Carmel, but that means they have to get up at 4 in the morning to be at school on time. So I did speak with DPW in regards to this, Senator, and again, you're hearing the testimony from the 2 women beside me that DOEs first, which I understand, that it's crazy if you're coming down from Magaʹhågan, you're going to have to meet it midway. By the time they get to the school, it's almost 2.5 hours. So the parents every day, to this day, make a sacrifice. The mother works in Tamuning, drives down to Mount Carmel with her 3 children, drops them, and comes back to Tamuning. But this is a prime example of a family where she had 5 children going to Mount Carmel. 2 have already graduated from there. 3 are still attending there. And she lives in Magaʹhågan. But this is her choice to have her children go to Mount Carmel. And so this is what you're hearing is exactly what's going on with regards to the busing. And a lot of parents make sacrifices to get up and work around their busy schedule in the morning and take their kids to and from the schools. But I don't know what else to say. We can go back to the table and discuss this. As of today, it is what it is. You know, we work with what DPW can provide for the charter school students.
Okay, it's something I think we need to think outside the box on something like this. I mean, if there's any grants out there to provide even the service for the school to have their own buses at one point in time, you know, moving forward, it's an idea to do that. So I know, Ms. Santiago, you're itching to say something. Please turn on your microphone. Okay.
I just want to share this with you because as we speak about families' choices to stay with us, regardless of the busing challenges, we also have our employees who wear different hats. We take turns to make sure that we go to the bus interchange to make sure that our students are safe. It's out of our jurisdiction already when they leave campus, but because we care for our students who we have kindergarten, staying with their older siblings. They're students too. They get distracted. They want to walk around. But what do? We send our own personnel, our principal, assistant principal, our counselors, who's not supposed to do this, work beyond their responsibilities just to make sure that our students are safe outside of our jurisdiction.
Thank you for that. In fact, I called a couple years ago, I think, Vanjie, when I spoke to you, I had to call GPD.
Yes.
Because I got a complaint from some parents that were going to charter schools down at Paseo that there was fights going on down there.
Yes.
And that we need more of a presence of a GPD or somebody with authority to oversee that. So please, stay on top of that too. If you have any issues that GPD is not coming for, I'll talk to the oversight chair of public safety and bring him into the loop of things and saying this is an issue that's happening over at Paseo.
Yes, and thank you, Senator. I will follow up on that. I've just taken note on this. Please. I want to also add that I know that Senator Castro over here, I know we were talking about this about busing, because he's very innovative in that extra way. And he was talking about busing. I know he was speaking about that, Senator, and I know he wants to discuss that, so you know that we are on top of this and we are thinking ahead of the times. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Go ahead, Senator.
Thank you. Actually, Chair, that's not my idea. It's actually the product of a few of us here. And yes, you're always in the loop, Madam Chair. Senator Taitagui, thank you for that question. I just want to add to the conversation by putting 2 more considerations on the table for you. Someone mentioned too early to rise, 4:30 to 5 a.m. Perhaps you might hear the conventional response, well, everybody else does it. Put hami, gibandokku. Just because they do it and it works for them doesn't mean we can accept it and it works for us, not us. And so we would like you to reconsider that. And then the late end time. So we end at 3, we end around the same time, and these kids got to go back the same way they came, and they come home in the later afternoon. Oh, but everybody else goes through that. Does that make it okay? I don't think so. I got 2 more, though, I want to mention that hasn't been put on the table yet. Field trips. It's an exorbitant amount to take a public bus to a field trip at $250 a pop. You got to leave by 8 and be back by 11:59 because they have to get back in the circuit. That's ridiculous. We have a self-contained classroom at our school, Career Tech, that goes every Friday for experiential learning. And I'm talking about my deaf and hard of hearing students. Thanks to the gratitude and the generosity of their deaf teacher, Mrs. Myra Mendiola, her ASL interpreting team, as well as our consultant, Ms. Kirsten Rosario, they transport them. Is that okay? Yeah, I want to put that on the table for all learners, for all of you to think about in terms of the cost that we're billed per transit. Now, that's not a dig on DPW, nor is it on our awesome bus driver, Mr. Mendiola, who we love so much. He watches our kids, okay? We appreciate him. But it doesn't even solve this question. No one talked about what they do on Fridays and what we're going to start to do. Because of proximity, Career Tech will be opening an extension campus in Central Guam. For what purpose? For job placement, internship, and executive training. For our school, the #1 barrier to place these students in that environment is transportation. And I'm going to pay $250 a pop to get my kids from A to B every Friday? No, I don't think so. That's unacceptable. So our team has been meeting on occasion with a few folks here. We'd love to sit at the table with you, Senator Taitagui, in an informal roundtable over the good committee chair and the chairman on Ways and Means, because there are many ways to skin this cat. It's not just DPW, there's GMTA, there's all kinds of opportunities to come together using a different box, if you will, or some other contraption where we can use the flexibility of the charter school law to our advantage. And if it works, replicate it. And I'll leave you with this, since it's a dollar question almost always. If we're performing at 70 cents to the dollar to deliver the same instructional services, perhaps then challenge us to deliver the same transportation services at the same ratio. I'll leave that with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Castro. I knew I stuck something with you in that one. Thinking outside of the box is what you're very good at doing, sir. So I look forward to that round table. Okay, I'm holding it to you because this is one of the biggest issues that our parents have problems with. So look at that. We also want to look at the National Lunch School programs. Okay, I know that I think Guåhan Academy, you do avail yourself of this, but what about other charter schools? There are many students that go there that don't have this opportunity like DOE does. So go ahead. Doctors.
iLearn actually chose not to participate in the school lunch program for this very reason. The reimbursement money actually is very restrictive. And then so we weighed the costs and the benefits, and there was no cost savings for us if we went that way. So the way we've been doing school lunches has worked for us and has allowed us to live within our means. The parents who do have reimburse us, and we are able to use that reimbursement with some flexibility in terms of like maybe purchasing supplemental curriculum or supporting a program. So it gave us a lot of freedom to move. But this is a specific choice that iLearn has calculated to do that we did not see any benefit, financial gain in doing the child nutrition program.
Helen, how much do you charge for breakfast or lunch?
We don't do breakfast, and here's an interesting thing. Okay, so, and this is difficult for a lot because we've always been doing this. GDOE's always provided food for the kids, but there was a time during this school year where our school lunch providers had issues, so we shut down for 2 months, and the students did not starve. I mean, that's really, sounds very callous for school to say, but the parents stepped up and provided the foods for the kids. And with our food that we pay a certain amount, but we only ask reimbursement for $2 from the parents if they choose to eat the food. Most of it goes into the dumpster. Not because the food isn't good, as these kids, they're fine. So we're devoting a lot of time to providing food and spending money on food when that money can go somewhere else. So it was a calculation that iLearn had chosen that it did not benefit the school or its program, and our kids are fine. Yeah.
Okay, what about Haru Academy? What is the food situation there?
The free lunch program that we've looked into just has too many requirements. It's not even worth it, honestly. It's the paperwork is this, and to keep up with it is really hard. And so we've paid for the first half of school, and then the second half where the parents pay the other.
How much do you
charge?
$2.
So
$2 per meal?
It's $2 per student for the parents, but we pay the other half.
$2 for the students,
So
and then another $2
$4.75
from you.
now.
So do you decide, or does your board decide? Is it administrative
board.
choice, or did the board decide which company to oversee your food service?
So our board is the one who decides, and then we have an MOU with the endowment, and that's how we've been working lunch. So we don't have to go through all of that.
Is iLearn about the same amount, $2? And
Yes, we pay the parents reimburse us $2 for the meal.
Okay.
We pay the rest.
How about Mount Carmel? Hi, Jolene. Good to see you, my friend.
Good morning. Mount Carmel, we have a vendor that actually provides lunch food services. So we have breakfast at $4 and lunch at $5 for students.
Do they pay the full amount, or does the school help reimburse some of it, like
the
the
parents,
other schools?
students pay the full amount.
Wow, that's quite high.
Yeah.
That's quite high. You can look at something to lower that down, okay?
Yes, absolutely. Thank
Maybe
you.
they can assist you with that and helping Mount Carmel in that perspective. Who decides on the ratio of student-teacher ratio in the classroom? Is it done by the board? Is it done by the charter school? Is there guidelines?
Senator, it's each charter school dictates that. I mean, really, like, it all depends on the need, like the deaf, for example. It's a very unique situation. It all varies to each charter school and what fits for them. So some you could put 20 in a classroom, and others only 12. It all varies on the assessment and the need per the student, the teachers, and the people sitting on this table. They basically manage that with regards to that.
But do you oversee that, Vanjie, as the administrator for the charter schools? Do you oversee to make sure that the ratio, teacher to student ratio, is not really out of
Okay, so this
context?
is why I've always been a very strong opponent of the caps, because I like the idea of that the charter schools have the very personable with the students, right? And very minimal, and not be overcrowding at 35 students per teacher, for example. But unfortunately, we have to go with what's going on now, the demands of charter schools growing. This is why we are requesting today for the enrollment and to increase the cap, because there is a long waiting list in each of these charter schools. But there will be additional classrooms. Keep in mind, I just want to reiterate that doesn't mean that when we increase the enrollment that there are going to be more students in a classroom, 35 students to one teacher. It means they will open more classrooms.
Yeah, but you don't have control of that.
Pardon?
You won't have control of that. It's every school will have that determination.
Understood.
So if we are going to put a restriction.
So you know, this is the questions I asked, Senator. This is why with the schools and myself and Feli, we monitor the schools. They can tell you that sometimes I am a real bugaboo, because these are the things I ask for, just so it eases my mind. Just so when a senator calls me directly, I have the answers, and I can honestly swear to uphold the truth in regards to how many students per classroom. So yes, we do. Just recently, I've assured them that please keep in mind the enrollment, how you're going to do this. Are they going to add classrooms? They're going to add more classrooms with new teachers into the classroom if they increase the enrollment. Yeah. So just so you know, the council is fully aware of that. And this is why it's important that I know these things, so the council knows this, and so we can report this to whoever may ask from this body.
Yeah, and I understand that you're trying to keep the status quo for most of you, but you're wanting to increase the enrollment. Well, the whole purpose of charter schools and why parents are taking their kids to charter schools is because of the student ratio.
Yes.
They were getting such a high ratio in DOE, and that's why they're moving there. They need that one-on-one, more attention paid to the individual students. So, here, if you're asking us to increase this, and we're not seeing any change in the school as far as hiring, because I don't know about you, we're having a hard time finding teachers.
Yeah.
Period. There's a shortage of teachers. And what we're seeing at UOG is we're graduating them, but they're leaving off island. So it's important that we keep that ratio. That's the whole nemesis of charter schools. So I do want to bring up, I know you want to say,
rest assured, though, okay, Senator, that rest assured that the student ratio per teachers, it will be kept small and personable. Rest assured of that for each of the charters.
Thank you, and I'll be watching out there. Dr. Saga from CIFA, right? How are you, sir? Good to see you as always.
Fine. Good afternoon.
Okay. There is a retention as far as principals and people overseeing, these charter schools. So, you got your teacher retention, but I always see the leadership of these charter schools stay in place for so long. So I greatly appreciate that. You really believe in what you're doing. So, however, CIFA, I do have a question in regards in FY24. You had a expenditure and encumbrance of $3,225,000, and then in FY25 a total of authorized level of $3,633,895, and then that is the authorized level. FY26 total governor's request for CIFA was $5,850,000. However, the variance between that FY25 and 26 is like $2.2 million. Can you kind of and regards to why it's so increased this much to $2 million?
In regards to
the governor's request at $5 million, and then yet it was $3 million. Did somebody give a call out to the governor to ask for it to increase, or are you familiar with this? That the increase on your budget?
The increase in our budget. Well, what I'm looking at is we requested for an increase in our cap, which increased that appropriation for that. So we started at 300 the previous year, and then we increased our cap to 500, and so that was that increase of the appropriation.
So this increase is just for the student enrollment.
The student growth.
Okay,
yes.
It has nothing to do with salary increase or
well,
administrative.
every year we do in terms of salary. Again, most charter schools, including CIFA, our salaries for our teachers are one of the lowest on island, and so every year we have implemented a percentage increase for our teachers as well. And so yes, we do increase our teacher salaries in a percentage, but that increase in appropriation was the increase in the cap.
Okay, because I'm also finding that in FY26 requested for an administrator and an administrator of academics in the middle school.
Yes.
Right, at an annual salary of $50,000 annual. Is this new position or change in the title of the current position of chief academics or accreditation at $45,000? So you've increased it to $50,000?
So as our chair had mentioned, our staff and our faculty and even our administrators, we wear many hats, and so the board decided that instead of labeling it as chief or principal, we made the term quite general. So administrator, school administrator, and that school administrator now carries many different roles. And with those many different roles, of course, we want to compensate that particular person for working more.
So that explains the administrator of student affairs receiving $50,000.
Yes. So it's not just a disciplinary, it's other roles that we deem them necessary.
Yeah, you also have an administrator of student affairs for high school level. It's vacant at this time, and that amount was for $52,000 yearly. Is that still vacant?
Yes. So we are only a middle school right now.
Okay. So regarding the BTACS request, okay, that's with you, okay. There is an expenditure, of course, you know, in 24 you were not there, you're just a new school. I'm seeing a variance between a $1.6 million difference compared, so that again is increase in students, has nothing to do with increase in salaries or anything like that. Just wanted to verify that. But can you explain the justification in requested salary for a position of Chief Administrative Officer, excuse me, at $95,000?
So that is based off of, I believe, the petition that was approved by the Charter Council way back before I took the position that I'm in now. There could be a change to that going forward if that comes up with our board meetings, but we were just basing off of what the petition said.
I've noticed too that there was a request for a principal from 45,000 up to 75,000 increase.
Yeah, again, that's what
that's quite a big
basing
jump.
off of. Yeah,
that's quite a big jump.
I mean, I don't need it if that's what you're asking. Yeah, I can show that, but.
I always wondered how these salaries come about. I mean, I know you have the flexibility, especially when you were talking, when I wasn't here, I was listening about contracts, you know, and not having the Attorney General, you know, sign on this. That has to do with salaries too as well. You know, and we know that teachers are probably, that work for charter schools, probably make so much less than DOE. But then you're seeing these administrative positions making so much higher. That's questionable. People are going to question that, and we need to keep an eye on that, because if you ask me, it's a teacher should be getting more money, having to endure what they have to do at these charter schools. So I'm just letting you know I'm keeping an eye on these costs that are going up substantially. And I do know that it's all done by boards, right? I know there were talk about the Attorney General's office signing on off contracts. I think that's something that needs to sit down as a roundtable to discuss, because this is important. You know, we don't want to have a situation where we're the ones holding the bag at the end of this government, you know, and also the liability on the board members themselves. They can be liable for a contract amount of $1 million. And that, what worries me is that now you're going to get board members not wanting to serve on these boards because they don't want the liability. So we have to be very cautious on who sits on these boards, that they know what they're doing, or discuss whether to have the Attorney General sign off on these contracts and have another set of eyes for accountability for these. Go ahead, Angie.
Senator,
Angie.
You know what I'm going to say about this passionately. I disagree with that. It will be bottleneck. This is why the schools do what they do well. Mm-hmm. Maybe we can do another option to do away with the AGs, because we already have the AG overwhelmed. And so with that said, I'm going to passionately say as the council chair that we not go that route. Don't break something that's not broken. I say to this body is that maybe we could go with another option with allow them to do what they're allowed to do. Then maybe add in, like I mentioned to you, and I will bring this before you, so you bring this before this body. Anything over 100,000, let them have a certified person sign on it. That certified person will, at the end of the day, it will be responsible because they're certifying this. And that will not bottleneck that. And I think that's the easiest possible way to make these charter schools do what they do. You know, if we put the AG in this, I'm not picking on anybody. I'm just saying whoever the AG is, I'm talking about the position, not the person, the position. Then we're going to be like every government of Guam. Procurement is bottlenecked. That's the problem. There's a reason why across the United States of America, to include Guam, that charter schools work, because they don't go that route. That route has broken.
Okay, Benj. I tell you what, because for the sake of time,
Thank you.
we will have that conversation because it's important to have. You know, the government should not be holding the bag at the end for people making decisions that they don't have the money to pay for contracts. I was happy to see Mount Carmel did not have any change. It still stays at 4.2,900,000, and there is no variance with regards to this. However, I did see a discrepancy, though. I saw a teacher, a fourth grade teacher, making $35,000, but then yet the martial arts well, no, actually it's a vacancy. You have it advertised for $35,000, but you have a martial arts teacher for $50,000. It's a big difference. Is there any reason why there's such a difference between a teacher and a martial arts? Okay.
If I may, I can speak on that because I asked the same question.
Yeah, okay.
And so Mr. Michael Phillips educated me quick.
Okay.
Okay, these martial artists are in a different field. And so when they come and they share this with the students, right? They come with different belts that they wear. The belt colors dictate their expertise. They come in and they not only teach the student discipline, self-discipline, they teach them mind control, they teach them all these other factors that, you know, people do when they take martial art, right? The reason why it costs this much is because a lot of them have their own business. And so we're taking from them and we're saying, okay, come to our school, come to Mount Carmel and teach the students this, the art of martial arts, but the self-discipline, self-control, all these other factors. And this is the gentleman that does this is an owner of his own business. And unfortunately, this is how much he pays to do this outside of his business, to go to the schools and do this. And this is how much he charges.
Okay.
And so that's why it is what it is, Senator.
Okay. iLearn Academy, there's a variance difference of 177,376. It doesn't sound like it's an increase of student enrollment because it's such a small amount. Is there a reason for this 177,000 increase?
Oh, the increase
Variance?
it's increments, natural increments.
Increments?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, that sounds good. Lastly, I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, and thank you for indulging me and allowing me this opportunity to talk to one of my favorite groups coming before us when it comes to budget time. You know, I do whatever I can to provide the need. Like you said, it's all about the need, and the parents want this so badly. So it's our job to ensure that we give you what you need, right? Senator Castro, right? Oh, wait, before you talk, because wait, because, you know, I just had the indulgence. We're definitely going to have a sit down for sure on that. Okay, lastly, I just wanted to make sure that, especially with Guåhan Academy, you know, have you looked into the apprenticeship program called the GRAP? Okay, it pays full tuition. You know, so this might help you in getting more students, not worrying about us giving you the money to increase your cap. So take advantage as a high school. Who else does high school? Just you. Oh, yeah. As well, Senator Castro, the GRAP program is one of the, I mean, it pays for everything. It even pays the teachers as well, 50% of their salary, you know, overseeing these students. So please take advantage of it. If you have any other concerns that can help you, I oversee Department of Labor, and we just went to a program on it. I hope you get some more information, updated information to help with these apprenticeship programs. I'm trying to get at a middle school area to even bring kids in that area, so I hopefully we can add more charter schools to this apprenticeship program. Okay, so I'm working on that as well. Other than that, Mr. Chair, thank you for indulging me. And again, thank you so much for all your hard work, and especially to those parents that make the sacrifice for their children. That's our next generation that's going to take care of us. So, Sijusmasi.
Sijusmasi, Senator Taidagui. Senator Sean Gumatauto.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I know I'm standing in between everyone and lunch, so I'll try to make it as quick as I possibly can. I just want to start real quickly, Vanjie. I kind of took exception with your earlier remarks, saying that charter schools are kind of small against the big system. I disagree. I think by the showing in this room that charter schools have a significant, or make a significant impact on this community. So do not come in here and tell us that you're small anymore. Thank you. I am a big proponent of charter schools. That's why I say that and I start that. I have a mess of questions, but I'll try to keep them brief. Because, I mean, when you look at this, I just want to ask, if I could, are charter school employees eligible to participate in the Government of Guam retirement program? And if employees elect to participate in the system, are any of these employees also contributing to Social Security with employer costs required for participation in both retirement systems?
Okay, to answer your first question, Government of Guam retirement, no. To answer your question to Social Security, yes.
Okay. Now I just will get me to my other questions. I just want to get that for the record. 17 GCA Section 121-107-6 allows charter schools to solicit and accept any grants or gifts subject to financial reporting requirements and applicable laws. For the record, what portion of our charter schools have been supported by any grants or gifts during at least the past 3 fiscal years? Even a round number's fine, or a round percent.
Yes. Well, consolidated grant, yes. Consolidated grants, yes. With other gifts or anything that I'm aware of, no.
ARP. So the 3 charter schools like Island.
I don't know if ARP has been a gift to anybody recently at this point. I mean,
Federal grants for from Guam, for GACs, I speak, because we get federal grants for the reimbursements of our national lunch program. We also have been granted with AmeriCorps, which is under the Serve Guam Commission. It's a 800,000 grant that we received as well, but that's separate from, so we can actually be sustaining our expenses through other federal funding.
Okay.
For Island, we were also able to this year participate in the block grant. So kids who wanted to do our after-school program, that was paid for by CCDF. And then we have a GITA grant, and we also had a Homeland Security grant to beef up our security system in the school.
Okay. Vanjie, if I can, to what extent are gifts and donations factored into each of the charter schools' budget and operations for the fiscal year?
I'm going to tell you, no one here gifts, no gifts. You know, it's safer to stay that
it's
route.
Not, Vanjie, it's not like I'm asking for a package that we gave. It was more like, what are the contributions, financial support, those types of things. That's when we talk. I mean, because there's so many people that are here supporting you all.
Yes.
And I know that's not silent.
Yeah.
You have to report that, right?
Yeah. Yes, we do. But I'm going to tell you, we try to keep it honest up here. You know, everything is about transparency. You know, I've mentioned this time and time again to every time there's leaders of each charter school. We have to be transparent so we can get what we need. And if things are not working and we have something that we need to work on, the end is to find a solution. Stop, no finger pointing. We're not going to finger point. We're going to own up to it, and we're going to find a solution. And I think that's what has worked with the charter schools in the last 5 or 6 years.
No,
I can only speak when I've been here.
I'm not even arguing that today. I think that the biggest thing for us is knowing that if someone in this community, they're very generous and they want to give to the schools individually, that's what my point is.
Yeah.
And just ensuring that each of the charter schools are accounting for the gifts that are given. If I've been to Will's school. Let's say they give lumber.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I'm not saying that.
Yes.
Okay. These are things that you can tangibly use as part of your education programs.
Right.
So I'm hoping that as we're here talking about this, that and it's a good segue to my next question. Again, making sure that you're holding accountable the things that you receive.
Yes.
Okay. One last thing relative to procurement, Mr. Chair. 17 GCA Section 12111F provides that the Guam Academy Charter School Council shall utilize the Office of the Attorney General of Guam and its legal counsel unless the Attorney General in writing authorizes the council to utilize private counsel. So can I ask, we heard him mentioned earlier, but to what extent is the Office of the Attorney General involved in the review and approval of any procurement, employment contracts, establishment of MOUs, and other matters requiring any legal services?
None whatsoever with regards to that. I will say that 4 years ago, I did write a letter to the AG in regards to one of our council members with the conflict of interest, and he responded back with regards to his legal response, and that was the only time that we ever used the assistance of the AG's office.
Okay, so Vanjie, why I asked that is, and I've asked this over all of the agencies under my oversight, is if you in fact engage the Office of the Attorney General. The reason is to ensure that when you guys are coming down here, it's not going to always be about money, it's going to be about policy.
Right.
So at times, unless you guys are like the most experienced policy writers, it's to use the resources of a legal team or a legal office to be able to help you create good policy, especially when it has to do with the operations of not just the Charter School Council, but for all of the schools.
Yes.
So hence why my question was that. Okay? Okay, and just lastly, Mr. Chair, and this is pretty much, and this is how we started the meeting earlier, is this is more to probably to Anne Marie. In the world, there are 3,193 endangered languages in the world. And the technical term, I think we can debate it because I do a lot of work in my other, part of my other hats as an instructor at the University of Guam. But when there's 1,500 speakers or less, that's considered endangered for the most part, and people may argue it. But I want to give you kudos because with your program, if you look at every year that people are in it and leave, we are far from the endangered languages list or the endangered language thing because of the efforts of that. So as you're going back to what Vanjie, you said earlier, we are small. No, you are not. Okay. The demand is high to get into your schools. You are competing and people want to be there. So I am just saying, as you guys come in here, you are at an equal footing to your counterparts in the Guam Department of Education. Vanjie, thank you, and thank you to the rest of you. Mr. Chair, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Senator.
Situs Masi, Senator Gumatauto. And a great note to wrap up the panel. I have a few comments and in the closing. So I remember in the pre-budget meeting, we had a discussion on the students and the enrollment numbers going up. However, there was a discussion on, at some point, you may be able to do it within your current cap. I'm saying this because I'm sure you've been reading the same headlines as everyone else. And I just want to be honest and frank with you. We appreciate everything that you're doing. I have been a huge fan of charter schools, and I know exactly everything that you're doing going forward. We will come back to you before we actually prepare the bill for the floor to let you know where we're at with that and what we can do. What I don't want to do, because I want to work with you on this, what I don't want to do is have you also miss out on that opportunity by adjusting numbers. If we have some agreement that you can still do it with if you don't get the full appropriation, but if you want to keep your number as a flexibility. The reason why I want to do that to you is just because, you know, if you're able to, then you know you can get your enrollment without the limitation by law. We'll figure out where that might be. We're going to do everything within our power to get to this number. The one thing I do want to say is, and I mentioned this to many of you during your pre-budget hearings, you know, I believe right now with the growth of charter schools, with the success of charter schools, we are now clearly operating two parallel educational systems. And I think, and I've asked the chairman to join me, that after this fiscal year budget is passed, one of the first things I want to engage in with charter schools and with the Board of Education and with the Department of Education and even the governor's office is, I think at this time, especially with the closing of schools and all the conversations, I think it's time for education to basically be reorganized. And I think that that's where the discussion is going to come in. You know, we also, and I know we constantly say this, we appreciate everything that Department of Education does every day as well. But frankly speaking, with the reduction of students right now, basically just around 8,000 to 10,000, and the emergence of the constant need and desire for expansion in charter schools, I think it just only makes sense. But Vanjie, I want to go back to something that I was so pleased to hear of, particularly with CIFA, and I know a couple other schools have this experience, that although we have a DODEA system, we actually have DODEA children who are attending our charter schools. And I've even heard of some dependent teachers who have either expressed or are also working in our, I think this is one of the premier examples of the success, because we have, that's an outside marker of success, because that's a view from individuals who have a school system that's within DODEA, but yet they choose to go out and work with charter schools, which is a very, very stark choice. And so can you comment on that? Because I have another comment that I want to make beyond that.
Yes, thank you, Senator. It's funny how the teachers, right, like you said, there's school inside the gates. And the fact they choose to do their study, do their homework, and parents wanting to put their students, their children in charter schools. A lot of them in the mainland were in charter schools. And so when they found out like Guam has charter schools, they didn't realize Guam had 7 charter schools. And basically I said, it's on the website. You can go on the website, you can read about it, and then you can decide from there. But either way, it's going to work if you put your kids there. They'll love it. It seems to be the new way of things. The new things are growing, up at Camp Laws, and it's growing, and they seem to want, their choice of school is charter schools. Now, it's amazing you have employees from DODEA and wanting to work for far, far, far less, as far as money's concerned, working at the charter schools. A lot of them believe in the charter schools. And so I applaud these 7 charter schools for doing that. But it seems to be like the new way of doing things in this year. Last year, I think towards the end of the fiscal year, that's when we started, when people were calling me, asking me about this. I live in base, but I'm willing to take, I was honest about the bus transportation. And they're like, okay, I'm going to say iLearn right now. There's a waiting list because they inquired about iLearn. I said there's a long waiting list, and that's a long wait, but there are other charter schools. And I said you can go into their website, read about it, and take it from there. And do your homework, and your choice. I'm going to tell you the busing may be a problem, but no, that's not a problem for us. So that seems to be where a lot of the parents from inside the gates are choosing to go with.
And so with that, I want to mention this, and hopefully we got a lot of people who watch our hearings, and so I like to communicate with our public through this forum as well on what the committees are doing. I have Senator Gumatalto and others. I've been speaking with the chairman and other senators that, and we had several meetings now with our congressmen, given the fact that the whole system of government, as we know, is under transformational change on the national side. But I think with that transformational change, what happens is opportunities come out of that as well. I'm understanding that in close talks with several federal officials that they don't want to grow DODEA schools anymore. They don't want to build any schools. It's, the federal government has found that within the DODEA system, as well as housing, it's just exponentially more expensive with those MILCON contracts. So with our downsizing of schools, and the opportunities and the emergence of our charter schools, we are going to continue talks with our federal partners to possibly start to take some of these schools that are being mothballed and start making offers now to transform that into an opportunity for them, because we're going to have quite a big growth of population over the next 10 years. They've said as much as 30,000 personnel, 35,000. Many of them are going to be families. They're going to have children. They're going to require education. So I think this is another opportunity where we can create this transformational change. And I'd like the charter schools as a community, your individual units, but as a community, to continue to think about this and the offerings that might be available, because probably the best mechanism, because we have a storied history between the federal system and the local system, is probably the pathway would be charter schools, because that relationship is a little bit different. The hierarchy, the bureaucracy, the I think that's the magic of what you've been able to eliminate. And I mean, it's not an apples and apples, but the truth is that the effectiveness of what you're doing, I think, has a lot to do with your flexibility without the bureaucracy and the ability to be kind of self-contained. And with that, a lot of those tertiary expenditures a lot of times go away, because you're managing at a level really where you honestly have just a budget that allows you to operate. You have no real flexibility in it. So I just wanted to put that on the table, that I think this is going to happen sooner than later. So within your planning, to start thinking along those lines. I think that's the greatest opportunity for growth, is going to be some sort of partnership. And so as we go forward in that, Vanjie, I just wanted to mention to you, I know that there's been this back and forth, and there is a bill to build in, and I want the charter schools to take this away as well, because we work with your boards, and you have policy, and you're entering into contracts. There is that, that reality of liability. So, I think there can also be a happy medium here. What I really want to say to the charter schools, that with all of the, with whatever contracts, construction of new campus, whatever contracts you're getting into that expands basically what your operations are, the minimum you have to do is have legal counsel review, and for the board to understand this new bill basically will mean that they're on notice, that the boards are on notice that these contractual obligations that they're getting into are going to be something that, is going to create liability across the board. So I think that's just being fair with you, right? If we come up with a system that is effective, if we come with a system that's not as bureaucratic, but yet has a legal stamp on it that says this is good, true to form, and all parties, are protected, I think we can get there. But I just don't want it to be, we don't have the AG, but yet we're going to continue in the same path, because I just don't think it's not fair for either party. And it's also, in the end of the day, going to come back to the government. There's just no other way around that. When there are legal issues, when there are, expenditures, when there are things that ended up being some type of settlement, most people are not going to be able to pull out of pocket to make these payments, and so it will come back to the government. So that's why I just wanted to put that caution out. I know all of you are entering into, responsible contracts. I know that the things you're doing possibly include debt service and the like. So there's that layer too, right? Now you have the financial institution and others that they're going to want to protect their assets as well and things like that. So I believe we're going to have a happy medium. But that bill, if it becomes law, will really be the catalyst so that all of you have more guidance and more of a parameter to work with regard to that. But, with that, I really think that's it. Like I said, we're going to work our tails off to do this. I want you to keep an open mind about what your number means. And I also want you to keep in mind that I really think going into the following fiscal year, in between that time, the discussion on reorganization, the discussion on, how even the Guam Department of Education has to recognize, we'll have them over this afternoon and discuss this with them as well. But that's going to, I think, drive where we go. Because certainly your model is working, and certainly your model is extremely efficient. And so we need to marry these systems as opposed to two parallel systems. So with that, I think this has been a very fruitful dialogue today. Like I said, your continued growth is a continued representation of your success. So, we depart by saying, continue the good work. So housekeeping says this will conclude this morning's budget hearing on Bill 44-38 COR relative to the charter schools of Guam. The committee will continue to accept written testimony on the bill within seven calendar days from today, which may be addressed to myself, Senator Christopher M. Dueñas, as chairman of the committee, and mailed to 163 West Chalan Santa Papa in Agaña. You may also send your testimonies to my email at senator.dueñas@guamlegislature.gov. This morning's budget hearing is now adjourned. And the time is 29 minutes early for lunch. That means 11:31. Situs Masi, everyone. We're in recess.